A new CBS This Morning investigation reports hundreds of American children die of maltreatment every single year, despite being known to Child Protective Services. One of those children was 5-year-old A.J. Freund. A.J. was found dead in Illinois in April. His parents were charged with his murder.
CTM national correspondent Jericka Duncan started looking into how something like this could allegedly happen despite previous interventions by police and child welfare workers.
Relapse is my biggest concern.
This woman is pregnant with her 5th child and admits using methamphetamines as recently as 2 weeks ago.
There's not much I can do.
It's Brittany Plowman's job to determine whether the kids living here are in danger.
I have some packets of information, one for each child.
As a caseworker for the Children, Youth, and Families Division in Outagamie County, Wisconsin, Plowman has already helped by putting 2 of the kids in daycare, where one just took her first steps.
She walked, and I didn't get to be there.
It's difficult that you got to miss out on that.
It is.
So this is a typical day for you?
Yeah, multiple of these back to back, but yeah.
Whew, that was pretty heavy.
Plowman handles new cases, typically working with about 15 families at once. She's one of 28 social workers in a county of more than 180,000 people.
There are things that you can't fathom, on a day-to-day basis. You can't fathom that a parent would do this to their child.
I pushed him into the wall.
Her goal is to keep families together, but she's had to separate about a dozen of them in the past 3 years.
Have you ever had doubts about whether or not you should have removed a child from their home?
Oh yeah, there's definitely doubt. Am I doing the right thing? Who's going to suffer from this the most?
In 2017 alone, an estimated 1,720 children died from abuse and neglect in the U.S. More than a quarter of those children were previously known to Child Protective Services agencies. The issue came to light earlier this year with the death of 5-year-old A.J. Freund in Illinois.
Investigators located what they believe to be A.J.'s body, buried in a shallow grave wrapped in plastic.
Police charged his parents with murder. Child welfare workers had been called to their home before. Stories like that frustrate Maine State Senator Bill Diamond, who's been focused on this issue for nearly 2 decades.
We're not making progress.
The former teacher has introduced a bill pushing for a long-term commission to study the problems within his state's Child Protective Services Department.
Kids are being abused right now while you and I are talking. They're being abused terribly. The only reason we don't know who they are is because they haven't died yet.
Experts say caseworkers in many areas are underpaid and overworked. Reports of abuse have increased more than 12% since 2013, partly because of tougher laws requiring the reporting of suspected abuse, along with an increase in calls related to the opioid epidemic. This mother says her addiction began with a prescription for painkillers after oral surgery 15 years ago.
I've never been homeless. I would hate to become homeless, but there are worse things. Not being with my children would be one of them things.
Have you ever had your children taken from you?
Yes.
Here in Outagamie County, the number of kids in foster care has doubled over the past 4 years. But Brittany Plowman says she believes the children in this household are safe for now, with their father at home and with the additional assistance the county is providing.
Do you think this issue doesn't get enough attention?
More often than not, it's the bad stuff that surfaces and not the good. And I feel like that needs more attention because there's a lot of good that comes from child welfare. It's not just about removals.
Jericka Duncan is here with more, and we were just talking about what she finished off on, because I was wondering, is it just a matter of either you keep the child with the family or you yank them out? Are there other options? Because obviously there's a spectrum here in terms of how dire the intervention is needed. Yeah.
There are a number of steps that these social workers take before removing a child. Obviously, if the child or children are in imminent danger, they want to make sure that there is no possibility of harm, or in the case that we pointed out, tragic situations like A.J. Freund. But it's a lot of work, and there are a lot of people involved. It's not just this one caseworker, but it's someone who follows up. In the case of the woman we first visited, there's a drug program that they connected her to. They were able to provide daycare services for the other 2. job training. So they're doing what they can to make sure these people are parenting correctly. And I hesitate to say correctly because you know there's no right or wrong way to raise a kid, but there are obviously things that you can't do that are illegal. And when you're talking about putting children in a position where they could be harmed or killed, it's very serious. And I'm really glad we were able to take a deeper dive into this issue after seeing what transpired with A.J. Freund.
As a journalist, as a mom, as somebody who got to sit with a Child Protective Service agent and ride along with them and to see what they face every single day, were you able to get a sense of whether or not a child should be taken out of a home and the issues, the challenges that they struggle with? Because for some people, they'd say, you know what, that doesn't look like a healthy environment for a child to be in. And on the other, you'd say, yeah, but can you imagine what you were like when you were 5 or 6 and they said, we're taking you away from your mom and dad, the psychic trauma of that.
Right, and that's temporarily, you know, for a babysitter or off to school.
Right.
That is why, you know, people in that type of work will tell you the goal is to keep families together. Sure, it may not be the cleanest of homes, or, you know, the parents aren't working right now and they are struggling to get by. But that relationship that a parent has with a child, research has shown, you know, kids are better off with their parents. But it is that fine line, and it's also the concern that someone is going to do something that could cause harm later. And that is the question that a lot of these workers have is, did we make the right decision? Should we have taken the child away? Shouldn't we have? And they constantly ask themselves that question. But I'm not the expert, so of course going into certain situations, it's very, you know, like, oh my goodness, I don't do this every day. She's trained to know what to look out for. But the goal is to keep the families together, and unless something egregious is clearly happening, they will try and support the families so that the kids can stay and they feel comfortable enough that they're better off there than in foster care.
You've got a lot more reporting that didn't air on CBS This Morning, didn't air here. So where can they find that?
They can find it on my Twitter page. You can find it on CBSThisMorning.com, but you can also go to my Twitter handle, @Jericka Duncan, where I posted the extended interview with the person who heads the department at Outagamie County, in Outagamie County.
Thank you, Jericka.
Great story.
Thank you.